Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing the first episode of Plane Talks, where I talk about the history of some of the world's most famous aircraft. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the Sukhoi Su-24 Fencer, the long-range strike attack aircraft from the Soviet Union. The Su-24 was debuted in anger during the Soviet War in Afghanistan and saw combat in the Persian Gulf War of 1991, with actions against the Chechen rebels of the Chechen Republic. Recently, in 2008, the Su-24 also saw combat, with actions against Georgia. In all, approximately 1,400 Su-24s have been produced by the Sukhoi Bureau in 3 distinct operational variants and delivered to a handful of foreign operators. To this day, many still draw comparisons of the Su-24 to the North American F-111 Aardvark. During its development, Soviet personnel were not blind to the aviation progress made by the United States Air Force with their General Dynamics F-111 Aardvark. This twin-engine, swing-wing, 2-seat fighter bomber began its life in 1964 and was officially introduced in 1967, pioneering a vast variety of technological advancements in the realm. The F-111 featured a terrain-following radar, as opposed to terrain avoidance radar, variable sweep of swing-wing assemblies, and afterburning turbofan engines. Swing-wing capabilities allowed the aircraft to vary its drag during different phases of flight, takeoff, landing, and cruise. While very practical in both use and design, a swing-wing approach often involved a complicated set of internal working functions that had to be incorporated into an already complicated aircraft design. Only a few aircraft have ever fielded these types of wings, and includes notable aircraft such as the F-14 Tomcat, Panavia Tornado, Rockwell B-1 Lancer, and Tupolev Tu-160 Blackjack, all appearing sometime later after the F-111. The terrain-following radar of the F-111 allowed the aircraft to fly at supersonic speeds just below the perceived radar screen and deliver munitions from low altitude with extreme accuracy. Production of the Su-24 was slated to begin in factory number 153 at Novosibirsk. The first production Su-24 went airborne on December 31, 1971, with test pilot Vladimir Vyomelev at the controls. Early Su-24 Fencer A's were fielded in small numbers, and this led to limited trial runs, leaving the Fencer B's as the true initial production phase of the line. The Fencer C came online sometime after, and sported improved avionics. Though differences between the three were many, they were more or less minor enough not to warrant new designations from Sukhoi. Only NATO required the varying Fencer designations for their own nomenclature. The Su-24's rushed delivery produced a few teething problems from the start, which forced several demultiplying modifications to be eventually enacted. Changes included the enlarging of an internal fuel tank to increase the aircraft's range, and another included an aerodynamic revision of key rear fuselage surfaces in an effort to reduce airframe drag. The brake chute was also relocated, and a ram air inlet was installed at the base of the tail fin. Early Su-24s dropped the overall speed of the Su-24 from Mach 2.18 to Mach 1.35 as a result. As devastating as this may have appeared, the expected low-level operations of the Su-24 suffered little in the move. The countermeasure capabilities of early Su-24s were progressively updated to include improved warning radar systems and missile launch warning coupled with integral onboard jamming equipment. Despite these ongoing modifications, the Su-24 would not formally be accepted into service until February 6, 1975. Her large fuselage eventually earned her the nickname of the Suitcase from her crews. The West would not find out about the Su-24 until around 1974, to which the incorrect designation of Su-19 was assigned. Interestingly, this mistake would not be officially corrected until 1981. In true NATO fashion, the code name of Fencer was applied to the Su-24, F for being fighter, while B was originally reserved for bombers as the Brewer, Bear, and Bison were online. It was not until the Soviet Foreign Air Force began arriving at East German airfields in 1979 that many of the fantastic Western estimates about the new Soviet aircraft finally dissolved. Externally speaking, the Su-24 has a truly unique design. Its external features are owed much to the original T6 prototype as well as the Su-15 Flagon, from which it was originally developed from. The Su-24 sports a long, oblong fuselage with flat surfaces along the sides, save for the upper surface. The cockpit is situated aft of the nose assembly, housing the important radar suite. The operators of the aircraft, pilot and weapon system officers, sit in a side-by-side arrangement under a glass canopy, featuring a relatively light, unobtrusive frame. The jet measures some 20 feet and 4 inches in overall height. By any measure, she proved a large design when viewed up close. As in her prototype, the air intakes were mounted along the sides of the fuselage and sported rectangular openings to aspirate their respective turbojet engines buried further aft on the fuselage. Of note, there is a use of a splitter plate to divert dead air away from the intake mouth and the fuselage sides. Interestingly, the rounded curves of the forward fuselage quickly gave way to the Soviet Cold War-style era of sharp angles and flat featureless frames around further aft. The tricycle undercarriage remained largely unchanged from the prototypes. The wings of the Su-24 are high-mounted and fitted among the design stemming from a short 69-degree swept wing glove. Wing sweep was noticeably drastic when the assemblies are in their full retracted form, giving the Su-24 airframe an arrowhead-like quality. The wingspan of the aircraft goes from 57 feet 10 inches to a more manageable 34 feet when fully swept. The aircraft also features preset wing sweep positions, 16 degrees, 35 degrees, 45 degrees, and 69 degrees. These allowed for the respective applicable flight functions, covering functions such as landing, takeoff, and cruise modes, and a straight-line dash setting. There are 4 weapons hardpoints assigned to the wings, 2 on each underside. Other hardpoints can be found on the center of the fuselage. In terms of armament, the Su-24 fitted a single Gerasev GSH-623 series 23mm internal cannon with approximately 500 rounds of ammunition. The cannon is set along the starboard side of the fuselage. While the aircraft had some limitations, the Su-24 was designed as a ground strike platform and built around speed, not intended to get into fanciful head-to-head dogfights with expected Western fighters. The aircraft's mission was simply to avoid enemy radar and unleash her payload on unsuspecting targets in range. Thusly, her biggest enemies would be enemy radar and surface-to-air missile installations. According to designs, the Su-24 is cleared to wield up to 17,640 pounds of external ordnance across her 8 hardpoints, 9 in later production models. The 2 outermost underwing stations swivel to match the currently selected wing sweep. That is, they are designed to always face directly forward, regardless of the wing sweep being used by the pilot. This helped to maintain the aircraft's aerodynamic aspect. There were an additional 2 fixed weapon stations under the wing gloves, as well as 4 under fuselage pylons. The 2 inner wing stations were plumbed to accept fuel delivery using external drop tanks. Perhaps one of the most important aspects to Cold War pilots was the Su-24's clearance to field tactical nuclear-tipped bombs if required. Drop tanks can take up the inner underwing pylon stations, and self-defense was handled by up to 4 AA-8 AFID or later AA-11 Archer air-to-air missiles. The performance of the Su-24 centered around her powerful pair of Saturn AL-21F 3A series turbojet engines, delivering 16,860 pounds of thrust each on dry and 24,675 pounds of thrust with afterburner. The aircraft could hit a maximum speed of 815 miles per hour, roughly Mach 1.07 at sea level, and up to Mach 1.35 at higher altitudes. Combat radius was limited to 1,725 miles for ferry operations, and about 590 miles in true combat radius, without external fuel tanks. The Su-24 is used by a few operators worldwide. The Su-24 was originally shipped beyond Russian borders to Soviet allies and satellite states. Algeria operated some 39 units, of which 36 are still believed to be operational today. Angola was rumored as an operator as well, having received 12 Su-24s by way of Belarus. Between 24 and 36 Su-24s are thought to have been received to the inventory of the Iranian Air Force, some being captured Iraqi mounts following the 1991 Gulf War. No Iraqi Su-24s exist today. Kazakhstan operated at least 25 Su-24s, while Libya purchased some 8 examples. Syria may have operated 20 Su-24 types at one time. It is believed that Uzbekistan still operates some ex-Soviet Su-24s left over from the fall of the Soviet Union. Ukraine remains the second largest Su-24 operator, with 230 total examples believed in circulation as of 2008. Russia maintains the Su-24 in her aging Air Force ranks, making up 415 total examples as of late 2010. Over 300 of these serve with the Air Force, while less than 100 serve with the Russian Navy. Despite these technological drawbacks, the pilots of the Su-24 quickly found a lot to like. Her automatic terrain system proved handy in many sorties, and the cockpit offered a good field of view from within, and many ergonomic amenities were also noted. From a future standpoint, the Su-24 is a design that is successful, but it's meeting its last days. Her 1960s origins almost dictates a closure, based on financial limitations and modernization programs within the Russian Federation to keep the aircraft alive. However, in the West, the F-111 Aardvark has already been retired from service, and the Su-24 can hardly be considered a contender on today's stealthy battlefields. The Su-24 is scheduled to be replaced in the long run, at least with the Russian Air Force. They intend to replace it with the Sukhoi Su-34 fullback. This aircraft will fulfill a similar role, but sports a bevy of modern and advanced features that make the Su-24 archaic in nature. At $36 million apiece, there have only been 12 Su-34 examples produced, even though its first flight occurred sometime in the mid-1990s. And now to go off script a little bit, I'm just going to close this video out with giving my thoughts on the jet. To be honest, I didn't know much about this one before I kind of got into the books about it, but having learned about it, I do respect it a lot more than I did. It's quite a venture based on its early designs, and to bring it to fruition with capabilities that hadn't been seen before, it gives me something to learn about in the future as well as something to respect in the past, and I think it's a great aircraft.